What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to our Beyond the Message podcast. It's Pastor Mike here, and literally fresh off the message.
Yes.
It is Sunday, immediately following second service, and I'm joined with Pastor Matt.
Hey guys, what's up?
And Pastor Ty. What's going on?
What's up, everybody? What's happening?
And so you two, this is really weird from my perspective.
Right.
I'll be honest. But
Kinda cool,
for you two, you guys were in the lobby this morning. Although you weren't as cute as the girls on there last night.
Yes.
Heather and Marcella covering Live in the Lobby last night. They were told that they were the red, the white, the blue, and the blonde. But
I will go on record by saying girls are prettier than boys. I will say that.
I'm glad.
I pray so. Yeah.
I'm glad we can agree. Anyways, so with that said, we literally just wrapped up this message for Memorial Day weekend and talking about the subject of honor, which is
So good.
gone in our society today. So if you haven't had a chance to hear the message, go back and listen to it first.
For sure.
But that being said, I'll toss it. Who wants to take it? What did you guys... what spoke to you? What did you get out of this?
You had a good point. You had a good point when you talked about kind of like the when I asked for the cherry on the top at the end of Live in the Lobby.
Yeah, the cherry on the top. Like when you talked about when you go to church, you go and sometimes people have this perspective like, what am I getting? You know, this, like that kind of deal. Like you said, we make it where we go to church and say, God, you are here for me. It's the pride getting in your way. Everything's here for us. And, you know, sometimes people go to church to get entertained. When you brought up that point, and it took me to a thought that happened to me recently. Somebody in our church, I was for the young adult ministry, I was like, I'm going to do pickleball. They're like, no one will come to that. We're not going. Like they start throwing, they literally done that. I was like, okay. And, you know, here come all these new people.
Yeah.
And we got a new crowd coming in, and we got to pour in. Now we're doing the young adult church service coming up soon. And I'm just like, man, people want to go where it's stuff for them. You know? And like we're trying to build just a community for the young adult ministry. But yeah, I thought that was a great point that you just said there at the end.
I think youth ministry was the same way, Ty. In the last couple of weeks, we've expressed some frustration because we try to keep it fresh, and we do game night. We did Bible study game night and all that stuff. And we do have some people that are like, I'm leaving, you know, and it's like, listen, it can't be just about you and the one or two things that you love, like, and then the people that stay, they're like, all right, I'll give it a shot. They have a blast and they build friendships. And, you know, you're right, Pastor Mike, when you said, you know, are we coming in expecting it? Like, are we coming in to really try to listen to what God has for us? You know, for me, this is kind of throw yourself under the bus podcast for Pastor Matt today. But I think for me, the first time was when I listened to it, I was going through like, what strengths am I good at when it comes to honoring?
Right.
I'm very good at honoring my spiritual leaders. I said this, I love, you know, Pastor Bren and Pastor Tommy, Dr. Keith, and, you know, Pastor Phil. I put those guys in a pocket, you know, not that you guys, I love bouncing things off of you guys, but from that, like they really pour in and I'm thankful for them big time. But one thing I told Pastor Ty, I said, I struggle in this season of my life, maybe with honoring God to what he deserves to be honored at. And it's not that I don't love him and I don't live my life for him and I try to, you know, filter everything through that lens. But I do think sometimes that I have made him, he's there, he's just ordinary. And we do that with our spouses and things that are important to us in our life. I think sometimes we forget how amazing they truly are, and we start to go in our human and we can handle it. But that was probably, you know, I got squirmy in my seat. I sat next to Ty, I sat next to James, and then in our row, there's a couple other people that I know, and I did feel myself like, why are you so agitated right now, Matt? Like, and it was God saying, listen, buddy, you know, you're not immune to this message.
Right. Well, and I think, and I said it in this last service, I didn't really say it in the others, you know, when I hit on marriage. But the simple truth is that typically it's the people that we are closest to, that we are so quick to dishonor whether we are realizing it in the moment or not. And the same can certainly be said about our relationship with God.
Yeah.
Is that, Pastor Brent said it many times, hey, familiarity breeds contempt. And, sometimes it's, you may be trying to do all the right things for all the right reasons. Like you said, you filter things through that lens. But if it's obedience for obedience sake and it's our attitude towards God himself has become too casual, man, we're guilty of getting this wrong. And I mean, trust me, you think it's tough to sit and listen to this message. It's harder to stand there and preach this message because, I'm not, number one, like I've told numerous people this week, leaving service, and they were like, oh, this thing or that thing really spoke to them or what have you. I'm going, listen, I said, I'm right there with you. I said, the message is an easy one to write out and come up with examples because I'm just as guilty as anybody else of doing these things and getting things wrong, so it's not preaching this in a bubble. It's, hey, we all messed this up, and, it's tough.
You were on my heart yesterday because I did a wedding on the Foothills Parkway yesterday.
Yeah.
And you remember the story you told where you just sat there and, you're like, wow. And I thought of that. And I literally was like, all right, learn from other people too, And so and I know you're talking about honor, about sitting back and just going, God, what a beautiful place we live. We're so thankful for my life right now. But that is tricky. That's very challenging.
Yeah. And it's easy because we're always, and it is preached 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Like, especially in American society, it's what do you not have?
Yeah.
I mean, we're such a consumer-driven world that it's what would I like to have in my life that's not there? What would I like to drive? Where would I like to go that I haven't been to? And that's the way we're all programmed. And then it's no wonder why we look at things and we can, like you said, live where we live. And it's like, okay, yeah, I've been here before and shrug it off. But it's like, God, it's like, I mean, this is amazing. What I'm seeing in front of my eyes, it's like this should stop me in my tracks every day, but it doesn't. And the same is true in our spiritual life. Is, I mean, to get up there 4 times and to make the statement that I made, I said, in some ways, it's almost very therapeutic to stand before, I don't know how many people we had in church, but a couple thousand people this week, and over again go, listen, I deserve nothing. I've earned nothing. Yeah. I've made mistakes. I've dishonored God. It's like, I will throw myself under the bus with all of you. It's like, it's almost therapeutic, but we kind of need to do that in our individual lives on a regular basis to go, you know what, God, I'm willing to admit and recognize I don't deserve your goodness, but yeah, you have been that good to me. And it's like, and that's important because that keeps that fresh in our minds. That keeps us to where we are thankful for who he is and what he's done for us.
I asked the question to Ty the first service. I didn't do it second service, but I asked, what's the one place that you're good at honoring and what's the one place that you're not good at honoring? Do you want to lead it? Yeah. And then Pastor Mike, I'm interested to see what you would say too.
The thing that I said I was good in honoring, I feel like that I honor my parents well. For so long in my life, you kind of take it for granted. But me as a young man, I'm maturing and everything and about to move out, all these things. I'm like, oh my goodness, like how much they've done for me, how special they are to me. Parents, they deserve a lot of the honor. I know not everybody has great parents. I was blessed with 2 great ones, but my parents deserve the honor for sure. But the thing that I struggle with the most, I said, was with the government,
authorities,
government authorities. I struggle with that because this is why I don't pray enough for whoever's in office.
Yeah,
I don't acknowledge everything that's happening because when I see the news or anything, it's this constant argument. And for me, I hate arguments. I hate drama. And I avoid it like the plague. But for me, that I need to honor them. I need to respect. I need to learn like what's happening. I can't be oblivious to what's happening in my everyday life. And for me, I feel like, man, I don't pray for whoever's in office. I don't pray for any government officials. And I'm like, wow, that's something like I did when everybody got elected. I'd be like, I pray they do good. And, and that's it for me. I'm not showing up and being consistent for those people.
Yeah. And I think what you just said too is very important with that is because sometimes, especially when it comes to an example like that, we go, okay, yeah, I prayed for that person the day they got sworn in, check and move on. And you go, yeah, I did that. But I like that you said you're not consistent about it because I think that's also the key in this is we can easily fall in the trap of going, yeah, I did that once 4 years ago, instead of it being a constant routine and habit.
Yeah. Or like you used that illustration today where, I pray for President Trump every week, but with Biden, I did not pray for him but one time, and you're like, hey, I mean, come on. They were positioned there by God for a reason,
So for me, I'd said it jokingly all weekend, honoring your parents. Things are not always perfect between me and my parents, I can vividly remember some instances in which we had some massive arguments and things would go sideways and all that stuff. Overall, though, I feel like, I honor my parents, especially as I get older. The older you get, Ty, trust me, wait another 20 years. I heard you guys laughing about, him not being 30 years old. He's younger than the church.
Yes, exactly.
But as you get older, especially when you become a parent, it definitely begins to give you a different perspective where you're going, you know what? It's like I held them to a higher standard than I would want my kids to hold me to, and It's like, so you do gain a different outlook on that. But I think I've been good about honoring my parents by and large. The two, probably out of the list that I gave, the two examples, if I'm not careful, there's certainly times where I can dishonor my wife, especially this week's a great example. I've been run all week, way overscheduled this week of what I should have been, if I could have changed it after the fact, but way overscheduled and all that. And when you have a week like that, it's easy if you're not careful to hit the house. And it's like Pastor Brent talked about last week, man, I just want to sit in my chair. Sure. I want to relax. Don't bother me. Don't nothing. Or like I said today, hey, get the mental remote and hit that fast forward button. Cause it's like, babe, it's like, I'm done. I don't have any energy to deal with anything else right now. Yeah. It's like you take care of those issues. Let me deal with mine. And you just mentally check out, and we got to be careful. But I will tell you, the government authority part of that message, I mean, like I told people, that came from a very real place, because just really a few days before really sitting down to begin to write out my notes for the message, I was watching the news and trying to see what was going on. There's been so much back and forth in the Middle East, and it's like, when is this ever going to get resolved and all this stuff? And in the midst of that, there was a clip where they showed President Biden, and he was out somewhere, I think it was maybe in his hometown, but he was out somewhere, and he walked up and, got, I think it was a coffee or something, but he got something from the counter, and, you could tell it was a very impromptu thing, but he's got a big smile on his face. And people literally that were coming in were kind of taken back because, of course, you don't expect to walk in and suddenly see a former president.
True. Yeah.
And so they, you see this look, and everybody there, as he was walking by, smiled, greeted him very politely. You could kind of hear a little bit of the conversation, and they're, hey, Mr. President, and they were holding out their hands, shaking his hand, smiling at him. And he worked his way through, a few people that were coming in the door and worked his way to his vehicle, and they left. And my gut instinct in that moment, and if you're listening to this and you're like, I love President Biden, listen, don't get mad at me. I'm just being very honest. Yeah. But in that moment, I'm going, well, if I was in that coffee shop, I'll tell you what, I have a conversation with him about some things that we can't do that, Mm-hmm. And I will say that being said, that really challenged me, honestly, when he first got elected, because I did not want him in office, But I remember in that moment, God and I had a clear conversation, and I will admittedly say that, yes, I have prayed for President Trump, but I have prayed more for President Biden when he was in office than I have President Trump. And it's kind of funny. It's kind of the opposite dynamic, because it's like, and I hate to say it, but it's almost out of a fearful place where you're going, God, please give him wisdom, please guide him, all that. And, it's like, I want him to be successful, where it's like you have another candidate, whether it's President Trump or anybody else. If you like them, it's easy to sit back and go, oh, they got this. I'm not. So I think there's two sides to this. It's not just praying for them, but what's your motivation behind praying for them? Are you praying for the guy you like and not for the one you don't, or vice versa? And even then, that doesn't mean that you're somehow spiritually better. It just means that maybe your heart's still in the wrong place.
Yeah, true. As we kind of unpack this service, we brought up the question, like, why is it so hard to give honor? And I'll let you touch on that too. But I know we kind of agreed. We were like, it was about the self, right?
Yeah, it's
personal.
Yeah, because personally, if you're not honoring God, then how can you like pour anything into others? How can you honor others if you're not even honoring the one true Heavenly Father?
Absolutely.
Like, how can you honor yourself by you're just taking horrible care of yourself if you're not going to God?
Yeah, and I think for me, I think there's a fear, and this is the next throw the Pastor Matt under the bus moment was, I think there's a fear of if we honor somebody else, it makes us look weaker.
Like less than.
Yeah. And we've had this conversation. I don't know if this has been out there with names yet, because I think I talked to you about it. I know you've mentioned it, and then I've mentioned it without names, but we're just going to lay it out there. We're 2026, whatever. But when I first started here, sorry, the devil's trying to get me not to say this, I think. When I first started here, if I was honest, I looked up to you, and of course, Pastor Brent, and you guys got a chance to speak on stage. And then when I first got to speak, I really enjoyed it. I loved it. And I went through a season where I sat in the crowd, and instead of honoring, I could honor Pastor Brent all day, but instead of honoring you or Dr. Keith or these Pastor Pat was easy to honor too.
I'm like, boy, you really are in trouble.
No, Pastor Pat was easy to honor. Pastor Larry was easy to honor. But when I would watch you or Dr. Keith sometimes, I remember saying it. I'm like, sitting there, and in my head, I'm like, I kind of hope you fail.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what? Like right now, they're like, what?
Ooh, the podcast just got interesting.
And it was out of fear of, well, if I honor him like I should, it's going to make me look less. And man, the enemy in that season of my life, you spoke multiple times that I would sit there and I would critique, and I would in my head, and it was a message similar to what you preached today that got me to go, what am I doing? Like, what am I doing? Like, you are obviously called by God. You are awesome. And this is not to blow sunshine up you by any means, but I will say, man, you are gifted and you are called, and you do such a great job, not even just online with your magic mic, if you will, with the videos.
I gotta shake this nickname. Shake this nickname.
With the videos and the way that you can craft a story from that, but just your speaking ability over these years and how you unpack and you make it real, and you can say the hard things with a conviction that makes us, I don't tell you that enough, that you are a gift. You really are. And I do think God has changed that part of me, so, and before you guys get mad at me, let's look at our lives and where are we not offering that honor that we should?
Well, and that's the examples that I used in the message, and I made a point to say, hey, this individual said this. I love them dearly. We're all good. Don't worry about 100%. It. They hugged me walking out the door Wednesday night after service, and they're like, I love you. I'm like, I love you too. I'm like, exactly. And they're going, yeah, you were all, I said, yeah, but it's the same idea. Who hasn't at some point, and it's different for us because we're in ministry, so of course we're perfect, and we all sit around and read the Bible and chant and all that stuff. Awesome. And there's no drama at all. But that being said, who hasn't in their work setting or wherever you're sitting there, or like you even mentioned before we started, as a parent, you're watching, another person's kid on the ball field, and you're going, oh, please let them fall flat on their face so that my kid looks better and get in there, and
Crazy.
But that just shows it's crazy, because to what end? It's like, okay, so it's like somebody gets hurt, your kid is in, your kid doesn't look better. Everyone knows your kid's just in there because that kid got pulled. If your coworker falls flat on their face, it's like, okay, you're only there because they fell flat. I mean, it's just, but yet we all play these games. If we're not careful, it easily slips into our everyday lives. And so we do have to be careful, but we got to champion each other, you know, and that's, you know, it's, it's Romans 12:10, you know, to honor others above yourself. And it's like I said, you know, instead of being part of a society where we as Christians are looking for opportunities to tear people down, to hurl insults, to wish ill on somebody. Yeah. Instead, if we go, hey, I want to encourage them, I want to lift them up, I want to cheer them on. It's like, man, it's like that's when we would actually take ground and have influence in people's lives. When we show honor, man, God shows up. You know, but if we act like the rest of the culture around us, we're going to make no difference.
That's so true. It's so true.
And I love you, Matt.
I love you too, bro. I love you too. And I'm glad we actually talked about that. We got to, you know, and I even said
we're sitting here. Y'all need to understand the dynamic. We're sitting here staring into each other's eyes.
That was awkward, a little bit, right?
That was a little awkward.
Yeah, in the middle of all this, I'm telling you.
Ty's like, can I leave the room? 5 minutes of uninterrupted eye contact.
Yeah, but
swinging or they're going to be hugging.
But I will tell you, it's interesting. Like the last 3 years, I would say our relationship's gotten so strong.
Yeah.
And I know we got a lot of connections similar with parent and the weddings and all that stuff and what we do. But, you know, it's crazy what the enemy will do. And we just got to hold that mirror up. And, you know, we want to hold the magnifying glass to look at everybody's faults in depth. But instead, we need to put down the magnifying glass and pick up the mirror and look at it. Look at ourselves.
So yeah, I'm telling you, basically comes down to this. If we make it all about us, we're going to see things crumble down like a granola bar. But man, if we see it like God, and you know, go all for Him instead of us, everything's for Him. We go to the Bible, it's all for Him. We're learning about Him. You know, we come to church, it's all about Him. We go to honor others, it's all about Him. Yeah, don't make it about us. And man, the fruit from that is just so powerful.
So true.
Yeah, you know, I mentioned it just in passing. There's so much you could talk about with this week, but you know, 1 Corinthians 10:31 tells us everything is an act of worship.
Yeah.
You know, and if we stop looking at this as we're pitted against each other, stop looking at our lives as we're against one another, we're divided, but instead go, you know what, God, it's like, I may not always like my circumstance, I may not always like the position that I'm in, but you know what? I'm going to choose to honor you. I'm going to choose to do my best to live for you and to view my day as worship to you and treat it that way. We'd have a very different perspective in life. And man, we get so much further along too than playing these games and getting caught up in all the things that the culture tells us we should be in. But yet there again, it's funny how as Christians, we like to play into those same games, chase the same things, but yet we know full well this isn't working for them. So why are we doing the same thing?
We get trapped. We get trapped. We take our eyes off the prize. We forget the main thing is the main thing. Yeah. And that is Jesus for sure.
Absolutely. Well, guys, listen, again, it's Memorial Day weekend. If you get a chance to listen to this while there is still time, don't let Memorial Day simply be about hamburgers and hot dogs. True. You know, do something to honor the men and women who have paid that ultimate sacrifice for us. If you can go be part of a Memorial Day observance, service, whatever, but take that time and remember, be grateful and thankful for the price of freedom, what was done for all of us, not only by our American service men and women, but of course by our Creator, by Christ, that He was willing to lay down His life for you and for me. And may we always be people of gratitude and honor. But guys, thanks for hanging out.
Thank you very much.
Thanks to Pastor Matt, Pastor Ty. And guys, I will say this. I know this week was a tough message. This is one of those, as I told somebody, said there are messages that are fun to preach. This is one of those that you kind of walk out on stage and from the very beginning, it's like pull the pin, throw the grenade, and hope for the best. Yeah. And I would just say the next couple of weeks, we are wrapping up this series. Be here next week. Make it a priority. Then we are kicking off our Experience Summer series, and it is going to be awesome. It's going to be fun. We got some great stuff in store, and I promise they won't all be this heavy.
Hey, it was needed, though. It was needed. This week
it was needed, but it's going to be some a good summer ahead. So make church a priority. Make it part of your summer plans. Don't go through this summer and allow church to take a back seat to everything else going on. So we love you guys. Have a great rest of your week, and we will see you in church this week.
See you later.